Hello, everybody. What if you fell off a cliff in Congo? What if you were in jail in China? Or what if you needed an organ to save your life? There is an organization somewhere in the country that solves these problems, and it's a fascinating business. It's a business that's built around expert logistics, detail, and absolute perfect execution. Today's story is with Don Jones. Don has owned several businesses. His latest was called Nora, an organ transplant business. But we're going to hear about a fascinating career of determination and persistence and execution. Don growing up in, let's just say, a more modest area, going to school, playing sports, and taking those lessons into business, owning three different very successful businesses in the fixed wing ambulatory business, saving people around the world in difficult circumstances and bringing them back home, and organ transportation, saving lives every day. Fascinating business because every day Don would start with nothing on the calendar, and by the end of the day, he had to execute perfectly. It's a great conversation. We're going to hear about execution. We're going to hear about exiting multiple businesses, getting through very difficult challenges throughout his career, and then the successes and where he is today and the wonderful work he's doing for his foundation. I look forward to the conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Well, welcome to From the Ground Up, Don. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this particular conversation, and you and I were talking at some length leading up to coming out here, and then this morning about how great it is in terms of all the different ways people can make money, and the businesses they create and build. And yours is right up there with a unique business, um, and you built it from the ground up, but you've actually had multiple businesses. You found your way over time, and so
But
I wanna dig in a little bit, but for the audience, as we mentioned, Don has been in the ambulatory world, but not just driving around ambulance, something unique, and then eventually the organ transportation business. I mean, really fascinating. You were on the cutting edge of life and death pretty much your whole career. So just tell me
pretty
a little
much.
bit, how'd you get into this world?
That's pretty interesting. When I was in my early 20s, I was a lifeguard on Atlantic Beach, up in New York, and a gentleman who lived above me was I'd see him all the time hanging out in the afternoon. I'm like, what does this guy do? Right? How can he be hanging out in the afternoon all the time? So I go up, he's sitting on his rocket chair and we have a beer together. And I'm like, what are you doing? He says, I am a 121 FAA aircraft dispatcher for TWA Airlines, who obviously now is long gone. Explained to me the job, how to do it, told me how to go and get an FAA exam, written in an oral, and you have to pass that, and then you apply for airlines. So I went ahead and did it. Thought it was great. I was doing a little bit of flying then
Oh, okay.
in Reading, Pennsylvania, where I went to school at Albright. And so I was interested in aviation. Went ahead, did the course, passed the test, did it all, and then ended up getting hired by Air Florida in Miami and moved down to Miami when I was 23 years old. I had no money.
Not a bad place to be when you're
No,
3 years.
no, it was a real good place to be when you were 23, for sure. So fit everything in the back seat of my old Buick
Right,
and
right.
drove down there. And I worked for Air Florida. Well, unfortunately, they had the crash in the Potomac, in
Sure.
82 or 3, somewhere on in there. And so they started going down the tubes. Most of my supervisors were gone, got laid off. I was still there because I was cheap labor. And but eventually, one of my supervisors called me and said, "Hey, I have a job for you over at my new location," which happened to be an air ambulance company. So I went to work there, worked for the air ambulance company, and learned it through my 20s and 30s, and then had an opportunity from an associate who had a small air ambulance company and said, "Hey, if you come with me, I'll give you a piece of the business," which I had no money at the time. I had nothing. And so it gave me a chance to enter entrepreneurialism. So I took that up and then we grew the business together. and it became very successful. And we're able to sell it down the road. So that's how I got into air ambulance.
Yeah, lot to unpack there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I love, so much of the story already, right? You're a young kid and, hey, there's an opportunity in Miami. Bam, I'm gone,
Yeah.
right? And, you just out of school. Um, I also like what you said, and we try to capture certain things, especially for some of the younger folks that listen to this, young entrepreneurs. I learned in my 20s and 30s,
Right.
right? Everybody's in such a hurry to get the Instagram post that I'm an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and yet, really, just be patient and
Sure.
learn, right?
Yeah.
Become an expert so that you can go out and really be hyper effective,
Right.
and that's what you
Exactly.
did.
And that's what I did. Yeah. And without that, I wouldn't have the skills to do it. Yeah.
So your air ambulance company is really an interesting business, right? It's talk a little bit about that because everything is urgent,
Yeah.
everything is an emergency, and it's not just here in the
Right.
US. You were
Yeah. All
everywhere.
over the place. Yeah. So two companies that we had, the air ambulance, which was Air Ambulance Specialists Inc. And then we moved into the organ business, which was we call it Nora, but it was Nationwide Organ Recovery Transport Alliance. Um, the air ambulance was more, like you say, we did domestic work,
Right.
but most of it was international, long range international flying, where if you go to Europe or Asia or South America and you get in a car accident or have a heart attack or whatever the circumstances are, and your family doesn't want to leave you there for a long period of time, but you can't come back on a commercial airline. You might be on a ventilator, whatever the circumstances is. So we had long range jets that were medically equipped with either nurse, respiratory therapist, doctor, full ICU equipped, everything on it from ventilator support to everything. And then we would make all the arrangements to fly into that foreign nation, set up entry fees, ground transportation, and sometimes remote areas like Africa where there's really not an ambulance. We would be
Right.
moving our equipment off of the plane onto a Jeep and going into the hospital and picking up patients and bringing them out. So, all kinds of different situations, different countries. I could tell stories for 4 days on on all the things that happened in
Right.
Congo and different
Right.
countries and China and different things that happen that, you got to figure it out, find your way, and finish the mission.
Yeah, well, this is far more complex than just the shock trauma helicopter,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Going
It's
to
obviously a
150
big
miles.
deal, right? Just goes
Sure.
in and out and takes a hospital, but I mean, the logistics are insane.
Yeah.
They're
It's
insane.
very complicated.
And so and everything is at the moment. We were talking about this. Everything's at the moment.
Yeah.
It's not like you can plan this 3 months in advance and
Yeah.
just say, "Hey,
Yeah.
sometime in October, we gotta go over to Africa and
Yeah.
pick this guy up."
Yeah.
As this call comes in, boom, you've gotta be ready and go.
Exactly. Exactly. And particularly in the organ recovery business, that is all same day now. I mean,
Wow.
our company, we do about 250 to 300 transports. And now that could be from a lot of different things. But when we start the day, there's nothing happen. It's just the rollover from the day before,
Right.
right? So it's all within 24 hours. Usually within 2 hours, 3 hours,
Wow.
you got to be on scene, right? So
So tell me, all right. So I know you don't want to tell stories for 4 days, but
no,
I got to get something. So, give me like your best fixed wing ambulatory off to a
story.
strange place story. I
All
got
right.
I got to get one.
So one, I'll give you one. I'll give you one. So we went to China. We flew in there. We had two pilots, two medical team flew into China. The China government came back and said that we did not have authorization to land in China, but we did.
Okay.
Okay, we did. But they said we didn't. So they arrested our crew.
Oh,
Okay.
jeez.
So here I am trying to find an attorney who speaks Chinese, who can help me over there to get my team out of jail. So eventually we do that, not a problem. We end up with the funny part of it is we ended up getting pictures of them all in their orange Chinese jumpsuits while they were temporarily held in prison. And that was our cover page for our newsletter for our company. It all worked out fine. We ended up getting the patient. Everything ended up fine. Nothing ever happened to it. But that's they're what? They're in prison in China for what? But you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's just like everything in business. You got to figure it out. Okay, now what do I do? How do I resolve this situation? Right.
Wow.
So,
That's amazing.
but that's just one quickie, and we could do tons.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you remember we had something similar, Michelle, that the time I had that speeding ticket and, we had to get right to work on that. Yeah.
That time I had to bail you out. Yeah,
Yeah, from the speed.
I remember that. Yeah, getting arrested in China was not on my bingo card for this episode.
Oh, that's amazing. So and so you're operating a business. So not only do you have to be a CEO and make decisions, right? At one point, I know you're running it, you had
Yeah.
a partner, but not only did you have to run a business, which is, run a P&L and
Mhm.
hire and do personnel and think about growth, acquisition, et cetera.
Yeah.
But then every day it's almost, it's a mad scramble every day, logistically and operationally.
Absolutely.
How did you divide that? How
Well,
how'd your mind split that in half and operate?
a little bit different on the companies. I think when I ran the air ambulance company, I was a lot more involved in the operational end on every little piece. And I just felt that the way it needed to be. And I felt that I needed to oversee and understand everything.
Mhm.
Um, but then I grew from that. And then when I opened up Nora, um, I didn't want to do that again. I wanted to pass those responsibilities off, particularly the day to day dispatch operations. We get, oh, I don't, it's 4 million calls or something. It's insane the amount of calls we get. I mean, we'll do close to 70,000 transports this year.
Right.
And that could be anything. That could be from moving a pre-case coordinator out to talk to the family about getting their loved one to donate. It could be moving blood pre-case to see who that potential donor is going to match again to. It could be moving organs, kidneys, hearts, lungs, tissue, anything of that nature. It could be taking the whole procurement team, which could consist of 4 to 8 people out to do a procurement, which could consist of a private flight. It could be a long drive. It could be us moving a donor's body to the ME's office to do tissue recovery. It could be an ambulance type vehicle, which we have that actually moves the donor while they're still on a ventilator to a lab where they will do the procurement there. There's a lot of different type vehicles that we have. We have about 325 vehicles nationwide that run 24 hours a day,
Wow.
nonstop.
And so you're literally you're at the you're at the center point of these life and death moments
Yeah,
every day.
absolutely,
Every day.
absolutely.
And so you
Particularly in that in the organ, we don't see it as much because we don't deal with the families. We deal more with the transplant centers in the OPOs, which is the organ procurement organizations. In the air ambulance, that was different. We dealt with the families
Yeah.
all the time, and the families were on board. Usually, there was one person that came along. A lot of times, it was private pay, so you're dealing with the family on trying to figure out how they can pay for this.
Right.
And you actually got close to some of the families, and a lot of them were nightmares. People on their honeymoon down in the islands, somebody jumped off something, hit
Oh,
their head, broke their neck, and it was just horrible stories that you became involved in and tried to help as much as you can, but we're just a short window in their life.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So it sounds like, where to start? So, there's a couple things I take away from some of this, right? And whether it's the ambulatory or it's the organ, right? We'll break into both. You're operating a business that has it's dramatic impact,
Mhm.
right? Dramatic impact, short time window, hyper logistics, and no room for error,
No, we're unfair.
right? You have to be perfect in every case.
Yeah. If we don't deliver, somebody may not get their organ. And somebody who donated their organ that organ could go to waste.
Right.
And they gave the gift of life, and we have to be stewards of that gift and do everything we can to never fail.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What an endeavor. What a career. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So let's dig in a little bit about how you got all the way through, because I know a lot of the stories on the organ donor business, the Nora business, but going back to the ambulatory business, you actually were involved in two of those businesses, right?
I was. I
Yeah.
was.
So you've really been entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
your whole life. So tell how'd you get to one, then you exit, you find another one. Walk me through
Yeah.
that story.
Yeah. So the one I became a minority partner
Right.
from the gentleman who persuaded me to come with him.
Yeah.
He then decided he was ready to get out, and he was the majority owner, and that's fine. He We actually went through a couple different potential sales. One, and this is a good thing for entrepreneurs to keep your head down and keep going.
Yeah.
We were going to do an IPO with another group. We were in Florida. We had a base in Florida and a base in New York.
Okay.
And we were going to merge with a company out in Colorado. And they were going to do an IPO. And then after the IPO, we were going to be the first purchase, and it was going to be rounding up several air ambulance
Right.
companies,
Roll up.
which actually happened in the industry after that.
Right.
So that was what the plan was. So we decided, okay, at that time, my kids were young, getting ready to go to school. And I was still in Florida, and I didn't want to raise my kids in Florida. So I said, all right, we'll move out there. We'll bring our company to you in Colorado. We'll kind of merge it, but not really merge it. But we're in the same office together, but kept the company separate. And that way, once the IPO went through, we could easily, be ready to go. And
Makes sense.
yeah, it made sense. Unfortunately, things kept happening that delayed the IPO. And the red herrings went stale, numbers went stale, and it was one thing after another. And then about a year and a half later, we were myself and my partner were looking at the deal, and we kept our eye on the ball the whole time. We kept growing, we kept buying more airplanes, we kept moving forward, growing our market share, opening bases. They were dedicated to the IPO and lost focus on the business. And actually, we ended up buying a couple of their airplanes. And a year and a half, it might have been 2 years later when we're still looking at it, we were like, okay, this deal is now upside down. You're way bigger than them, and what we're getting paid for it doesn't make any sense. So we pulled out of the deal, and that was history. And that never happened. So then the next deal with same company, we ended up a publicly traded company, which was called Cybercare,
Right.
which was a telemedicine business way before its time,
Right.
in 1999.
Oh.
Yes, yes, a big O, big O. And so we took all stock in the company, which was really brilliant at the time.
Right.
And
Anything named cyber in
yeah,
1999 was a can't miss.
that's right, exactly, exactly. So ended up doing that. What started out great, we got in for a couple dollars a share, wasn't a lot, and the thing went to $40.
Yeah, you're rich.
So all of a sudden, here I am, a young guy, coming from Chester, Pennsylvania, and I got $45 million on paper.
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty good. I'm really a smart guy. Until Y2K came, and then everything started to tumble, and we had a lock for 2 years we couldn't sell.
Wow.
And by the time we could sell, it was pennies. It was pennies. So,
Too many of those stories, but yeah. So a couple. I mean, your experience with that company, right? It's just, I mean, there's so many lessons learned. You could write a book for young entrepreneurs just on the first business you were involved in. I mean, I think the fact that when you started this whole IPO process, right? The fact that you guys eye on the ball and growing the business while the other guys were focused on the IPO.
Yeah.
And you just grew right through them. I mean, I think that's amazing. And because we talk to our entrepreneurs that's our business, right? Advising entrepreneurs. We tell them all the time, when you start going through a process, the easiest thing in the world is to focus on the process.
Right.
And what you should be doing is stay laser focused on the business. Go get a good team. Get the right attorneys, get the right advisors, get the right bankers, get the right team, and let them focus on the process, because I've seen it far too often.
Yeah. 100%.
People lose focus, and then suddenly you don't have the value you think you have.
Yeah. Well, in us, having the exit in Nora, that was a little over a year process. And you know, I think I told you we had 40 written offers when we took that to market.
Yeah. This is your
This
latest business.
The latest business.
Yeah, the
And
organ transport
the organ
business.
transport business. Yeah. And then we did managerial meetings with 12 of those, which consisted of, dinner out the night before, a 4-hour meeting,
Yeah.
and then multiple ones,
That's a lot.
a second
That's
round.
a lot.
Right?
That's a lot of
Yeah.
this.
And then you got to keep running your business.
Right.
Right. So it takes really focus, determination on, okay, it's going to be a year, and it's going to be 16-hour days, and
Right.
then you go to dinner, and
Right.
but you got to do it,
You
right?
gotta
If
do
you want to get there. So but you do have to keep your eye on the ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the other part of that was, the whole, the 1999 stock. I don't know if you know this, Michelle. McDonald's was going to become Cyber McDonald's. They were trying to get their stock up. I mean, back then, that's what it was, right?
What it was.
All you had to do was name your company Cyber this or .com that.
Yeah.
And your stock exploded.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. There was one, I'll tell you a quick side story. There was one, it was called Accelera.com. It's my favorite short ever.
Huh?
Where they owned a hotel in like the Bahamas, and they changed their name from whatever hotel to Accelera.com. And they eventually ended up with a multi-billion-dollar market cap, and they own nothing. They even sold the hotel. It was the greatest scam of all time. They got rid of the last thing that had them way down. But when they named their company Accelera.com, they went from pennies to dollars, and eventually they went from like 5 cents to like 50, 60, $70.
Yeah.
And they never owned anything. All they did was buy other internet stocks. It was the craziest thing. And that was the time. And so your stock goes up to $40.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting about that is, and this is really important. When you have a private business, kind of what your value is, right? And if you go to market like you did with Nora, you go out, you get bids, and somebody's most interested and may pay a little bit more, but there's a market value.
Right.
You get in that public market, and there's too often a huge distance up and down.
Yeah.
Higher and lower between the real value of a business and what the market's enthusiasm is for the stock.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what you were involved in.
Yeah. And there's no way, I was young at the time, and there was no way we were worth $40 a share.
Right.
Right.
But it was
I
there.
was just riding a wave.
Yeah,
Right? And I was like, whoa, this is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. 12 more months, 11 more months.
Yeah.
Hang in there.
The wave died.
Yeah, the wave died fast. I do recall. Yeah. Wow, that's a great lesson to learn.
But
though.
then, you know what?
A great
Yeah.
lesson to learn.
And then you got to pick yourself up, and you got to start over, right? And just do it again. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
We took about a year to reorganize and take a little break,
Right.
and then come back out, and then that's when we started Air Ambulance Specialist Inc. Yeah,
Right. So same business,
same business,
right?
yeah,
And
same-
did it again,
did it
and
again,
it was successful.
grew it very quickly.
Right.
Actually sold it in 4 years.
Right.
To Emergency Medical Services Corp., which was a transportation logistics type company. They owned AMR Ambulance, which was the biggest air or ground ambulance, and they wanted to get an air division, and they bought us to complement that division.
Yeah.
And that went well. That went well. I stuck around for 3 years, and then departed after that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned a couple of different things. So you grew up in Chester.
Yeah.
Right. And I know Chester well, growing up in Trenton.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not Beverly Hills 90210.
No,
Right.
it was very modest living for sure.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And so there's a hard work ethic that's involved,
Yeah.
right, with growing up that way,
Yeah.
which I'm grateful for.
Sure,
Right?
me too.
And you go to Albright, and I know you played football and you played sports. I know you credit a lot of that to entrepreneurialism, right?
I
That
do.
that work ethic.
Yeah,
And I love this story, right? You were young, you were taking chances, you weren't afraid. I think that's part of your upbringing.
sure.
You go through one sale, doesn't work out the way you thought. Resilience, pick yourself up. You just got knocked over, you get
Yeah.
back up, and you go do it again, and you have a successful business again. I mean, I think that's such a great story. How do you attribute that? Your upbringing and your sports days. How do you attribute all
Yeah,
that?
no, I agree. I do think organized sports, also being in a tough community, like you got to fight your way through it, right?
Literally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was in a lot of fights, for sure.
Literally.
Yes, and you, you got to work through it, right? And then I think in sports, it's um, you got to sacrifice, you got to work out, you got to train, you got to study, you got to work harder than the other guy. And I remember coaches telling me, you're not the best athlete, but you're always one of the best players because you're working when other people are sleeping or when other people are playing, you're working out, you're running, you're training, you're studying, you're doing something, right? So I think that was for me, um, a way to contribute to the team, right?
Mhm.
Was try to be the best player I could be.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's how you were in business.
Yeah. Mm.
That's the so it's such a great because we talk about today with young kids today,
Right.
who come up, and there's so much talent, right? Because they've been educated, they're smart. The education infrastructure, in the when they go through the right lane is really, pretty advanced.
Yeah.
When you think about what they have at their fingertips that we didn't
Yeah.
have,
Correct.
right? And yet, it's when I talk to them, it's about what you said. What are you doing when everybody else is doing the other? What are you doing when they're out having a beer? What are you doing when they're sleeping, right? Are you in or are you working till the work's done or are you working till the clock
Right.
is at a certain number,
Yeah.
right?
But you're right. I think entrepreneurialism, I believe you have to be all in, right? You gotta be passionate about it. You gotta be all in, particularly if you're starting from the ground up,
Right.
right? If you're starting from
Man,
nothing,
from the ground up.
yeah.
There it is. Highlight that one.
But yes, if you start from the ground up, I mean, we had nothing, right? So you got to get over the hump,
Yeah.
and usually it takes a few years to get over that hump,
Yeah.
and get it to that, and that takes a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I think there's something else here, right? And that is entrepreneurialism is who you are, right? And so the characteristics that make great entrepreneurs are some of it's a decision and some of it is just who you are, right?
Right.
But what I find in today's world is entrepreneurialism such a cool thing, right? Because there's all these tech companies and there's stories of, the 20 something billionaires, which by the way, there's a million and a half people who tried to do what they're doing for every one.
Right.
And so with social media, everything's sensationalized. I say the phrase I use is the resumes exceed the accomplishments in many cases.
Right.
Right. And so it's so sensationalized. And I mean, if there's something that I would love to really embed in the head of folks that think they're headed on that path, it's not a sensational outcome through the whole process, right?
Right.
It's work, it's
Yeah.
grit, it's
Sure.
time, it's hard.
Yeah.
It has to be hard if it's gonna be a good outcome,
Mhm.
and, you're not there's no such thing as an overnight success,
Right.
and it's not just when you start in business. You've been doing that as a kid on the streets in Chester, making
Oh,
your way. You did it as an athlete at Albright on the football field and on your other sports. It's kinda in your nature, and then you learn to apply it to a business application.
absolutely. And I think sports are important to that, particularly if you're a leader in sports, right? If you're a captain, you're a leader, that transfers over into the business world, but it just does, the business world doesn't just happen, right?
Right.
But either does sports, right? I mean, you got to work hard to be stronger, better, faster, right? And the same thing is in business. You got to work, especially from just starting a business.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
And then so you've done it a couple times,
Hmm.
you've been successful. I think part of, as you do it and you do the work, right, and you get start get results, your confidence really starts to
True.
really explode, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's an important note here in your story because what I in the true from the ground up nature, right, of business, you had this ambulatory business, you've sold 2. I'm sure you could have just done it again,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But you saw a different opportunity, and the story is really fascinating on how you got into organ transplant as opposed to just, "Hey, let's just keep doing the same thing because I got
Sure.
the notebook with the formula here and
Right.
I can keep
Right.
doing it."
Yeah.
Talk to me about how you transitioned over there.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
Yeah. It is a good story. It's very interesting. So, OPO is the Organ Procurement Organization, and every state has one, or if it's a small state, there might be OPO that handles 2 or 3 states. So the OPO in Illinois and Wisconsin were with a transportation provider that went into bankruptcy,
Mhm.
and they were trying to communicate with them on, okay, what's your plan? Where you going? Are you going to make it? What are you doing?
Yeah,
And
we have need every day.
yes, right. They can't fail either,
Right.
right? So they're trying to figure it out. Well, that company wasn't communicating back. So we heard about this, and me and my partner saw an opportunity, and we went to visit him. And we didn't have a company, we had nothing, but we had history, okay, of what we and my partner was in the air ambulance business too, different company, but in the same air ambulance industry. So we talked to them about what we had accomplished in our past and what we can do, and set out a plan, a 90-day plan to be able to be operational for them. And it was pretty funny conversation when you're talking with the CFO and CEO, and they're like, okay, so you have no employees, you have no dispatch center, you don't have any vehicles, you have no aircraft, and you want to do what?
But I've got a plan.
And I got a plan. I got a plan. And
What could possibly go wrong?
that's right.
So
That's
for
right.
you.
That's right. So, but it worked, right?
Of course.
And worked. We sold them on it. We came through. We delivered, and we got the 2 contracts, and moved all the organs in Illinois and Wisconsin, starting in June of 2012. Yeah,
And so you went from how many employees?
about 12.
12 and no vehicles or anything else, and so I imagine
Well, we had to buy a few
you're
vehicles.
buying a few
Yeah, a
vehicles
few
here, putting this all
vehicles.
together.
We bought a few
And
vehicles.
where is it today?
Now, well, no, well, so maybe we had 6 vehicles then. We now have 325. We went from 12 employees to about 1,100 right now, which most of those are, we call them transportation specialists, which are drivers, and they're part time. But then we also have a dispatch center with about 80 people in the dispatch center.
Wow.
And then, administration, accounting, back office type work. So,
Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah,
I think what to me, what the story says, especially with your background, right? And I think this is what entrepreneurialism is. It's not it's the who,
right,
right? And so great entrepreneurs, great operators, and there's different types of entrepreneurs. I get it. There's
yeah,
folks that are more marketing centric. There's folks that are more operational centric. It's about knowing who you are,
yeah,
right? Partnering with people who are smarter than you and enhance you, and leadership, right? When you played sports, you want the best players on the field with you,
sure,
right?
exactly.
And that's what it's all about.
And you bring up a good point. So my partner here, his name was Cole Backcutter, and we were complete opposites. He was an inside guy. He was an IT guy. I'm not IT at all, right? I just tell me to push the button and where to go,
Right.
right?
I understand.
But I'm an outside guy. I'm a relationship type person. I'm the one who can go out and get contracts and create relationships with transplant centers and so forth. He never went outside, right? So total opposites. We knew it, and we stayed in our own lanes. Didn't get in each other's way, and it was very successful. And we did well. Very, very minor times that we ever even got in an argument or raised our voice to each other. And we knew what our roles were, and we both worked hard for each other. and it worked.
That's great. Dual accountability.
That's great.
That's right.
Yeah.
By the way, he's so anti-tech. His cell phone has a rotary dial. So it's really a cool phone.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great story. And I know your wife was involved too, right? She was
Yeah.
pretty critical.
Yeah, she was. She was great. So she's been involved in really all the businesses. She's a CPA. And
Nice
she
to have one of those around.
yes, yeah. Well, she also could be a constant pain in the ass too, but and she'll say that to us. She'll
Michelle, mark that for a cut.
So yeah, but she was our CFO in the air ambulance businesses, and then she was kind of our auditing type person for the organ procurement. So she would kind of go through and close the books on a monthly basis and so forth. And she was really good too with a lot of marketing pieces because I see the vision and I can see the ideas and what we want to do logistically. And I can do 20 great bullet points on any subject and what needs to go into a letter, but crafting that letter and putting it all together and making it all flow, she was an expert at that. So I would just give her, here's the 20 bullet points, and then she would craft it into a nice letter. So it was good teamwork.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
good because you can obviously have somebody you trust.
That's right.
Michelle, do you know anybody who has that kind of relationship?
I happen to know a few people that have that kind of relationship. But it's nice. I mean, we talk about this all the time. It's lean into know who you are, know thyself, lean into who you are, and yeah, really work your strengths.
Right. Yeah. And Michelle's my strengths.
There you go.
So thank you.
That's I was gonna say that, but I'm glad you did.
That's actually, I'll share a funny story with you. When Michelle first got here, so she walked in and she said, "Hey, I want to see all of your collateral." Now, we have the vision. We know what we wanted to accomplish in the business and what we wanted to do all along with Verdance. And so we wrote all the stuff ourselves, right? And we give it to her, and she does it. She sets up a meeting and says, "Okay, I want to go over everything with you." And we walked in. We're like, "What do you think?" She's like, "Yeah, we're throwing all of this away."
And yet they invited me back the next day
Yeah.
too.
So, so great. So you've got this wildly successful business now, and I think what also is I think what the story talks about is there's similarities in the businesses, but
Yes.
they're not the same.
Correct.
And what I find with uber successful businesses that have gone all the way through the process, right to the finish, is a willingness to change, right? Not it's so easy in business to get something you're good at and just stay in your lane, right? And you just stay in your lane. Don't break it if it's not broken. Just it's working to stay there. And inevitably business catches you, right? If you're not innovating, and we talk about it here all the time. We love breaking stuff that's working, right? If we can break something that's working and create something exponentially better, let's break it.
Yeah.
And not break it out of necessity, break it out of desire,
Sure.
right? And embrace change. And you did that.
Yeah.
You could have just gone back and done the fixed wing ambulatory business again after whatever the time
Sure.
period was that you
Yeah.
contracted to not compete. But you didn't. You looked at a different avenue, similarity to the old business, but very different, right?
Yeah. Was very different. And I think we kind of took a risk too, because when we first were getting into it,
By definition, yeah.
and talking with the OPOs, we had talked with some longtime CEOs of OPOs, and we went with the thing of we're going to be 100% dedicated to the organ procurement business, right? So our vehicles, unless they're moving something for the an organ procurement industry, they're not going to move, right? Because we wanted to have that immediate availability for transplant centers and OPOs. Well, talking with the CEOs of some leaders, they're like, you're not going to have enough business to stay around. We didn't believe that. We thought we would, and we did. We did. And I think the other thing that I think we did, which was a little bit different, that we brought into the market was before we were there, it was they would use an ambulance. Well, the ambulance would get pulled away to go do a 911,
Yeah, right.
and the people would come down from the OR with a kidney in a box, and the ambulance would be gone, right? So they needed to change, and we changed that. Our industry really did. And one of the things we did was, and I do give our team a lot of credit for, was we determined that our transportation specialists, our drivers, had to be 5 years minimum EMS. So they knew the area, they knew the industry. We were looking for guys that were coming on a second career, because a lot of those firemen and police officers, they retire in their 40s and 50s, have a pension, but need something to do and want to make some extra money, right? So they loved our mission, right? Of being stewards of the gift, right? Somebody gave that organ, right? And we are now the stewards of that gift to get it from A to B in a timely and efficient manner so that somebody gets a new chance at life, right? So we hired these men and women who had experience in driving emergency vehicles, knew the systems, knew the hospitals, understood the missions. They weren't the young cowboys, and it worked. And they did a great job, and they still do a great job. And the transplant centers and OPOs love them, and because of their dedication and commitment to it, we're saving lives every day.
Wow. So you had the vision,
Yep.
right, to build out capacity that literally every day you wake up and you don't know if you're going to use it,
Right.
right?
True.
So it's because you're starting at zero every day. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's fascinating. And what I'm hearing is culture. So we're culture fanatics here,
Sure.
and so a mission-based culture,
Yeah.
like absolutely. You went into a community who people in that community, first responders, are naturally mission driven,
Right.
and you gave them the next mission,
Correct.
and they loved it. Was that the glue?
It was a big part of the glue. Yeah, it really was. It was. And they ate it up. They loved it. And the great thing about it was you hire one guy, and they're firefighters. They're all brothers, right? So you hire one guy, he loves it. He tells all his friends,
Right,
and then now all of a sudden you got 10 guys.
right.
And
Love that.
it really worked, and it grew upon itself, right? The more mission driven people see everybody else mission driven, and people into the project, it just kept growing and growing.
Right. What's so great about that is the ultimate business idea is where everybody benefits.
Right.
Right. So your business is benefiting because you got qualified drivers who know the area, know the system.
Yeah.
So you're running a more efficient, profitable outcome. Obviously the patient, right, the end user is benefiting because you have plenty of people and you have capacity to execute. But I can't get over it. These people. So first responders, they're just wired differently. And we have those in our family,
Yeah.
and they're everybody has a different motivator that guides them, and so accomplishing that end goal of saving a person.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their DNA,
Absolutely.
and they're retired,
Yeah.
and rather than go be a Walmart greeter or whatever you do,
Right.
you're giving them what it is they crave the most.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just awesome.
And it works. And it works. It works for them. It works for our clients. And they enjoy doing it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what all right, so you've been through some challenging times.
Yep.
Stock going from 40 to 1.
Hmm.
What do you think was the hardest moment at Nora that you had to overcome? And then I'm gonna have a part B. When did you know, okay,
Yeah.
we're over the hump here. This thing is ready to go.
Now let me do two first, because that's an easier answer.
Right.
It was when our clients started telling other transplant centers and OPOs in other states that you have to use Nora. You have to
Yeah.
use Nora.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it wasn't us. People were calling us to say, "Hey, can you come down to South Carolina, or can you come, over to Pennsylvania and talk to us about your your company and your mission?" And we would go in there. We'd already have that referral from another OPO, particularly Illinois and Wisconsin when we first started, and then we went to Michigan, and then Pennsylvania, and right now we're pretty pretty dense in the eastern and central time zones, less on the west coast. But we pretty much have vehicles all the way from Miami through to Maine, all the way up by 95, through the whole East Coast. But it really was. We knew we had something because our phone was ringing. Of
They were
come,
calling you.
they were calling us.
Yeah.
Come talk to us. Come talk to us.
That's called a good business model.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was very good. Yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah.
So that was one, and I forget what that was two. What was one again? Oh, the hardest.
Yeah.
The hard-
What was the moment where you were most let's call it
trouble.
troubled, concerned? I mean,
Probably. I would think. Yeah, there's a lot when you're running a business. There's a lot of things.
that's right.
Right, but I would say in the beginning years we had those first two states, and it took us a while to grow. And my partner was getting impatient.
Okay.
And I think he wanted to sell because he was like, this is just going to go anywhere. It's not going to get there.
Important.
Yeah, it's not going to get there. And because it was years 2 and 3,
Right.
we didn't grow that. We grew a little, but not a lot. And he had talked to me about it. And we had to have some long conversations on, no, you got to stick it out. You got to stick it out. It'll work. It'll work. And he did. And, but there were some times where I didn't know if he was going to stick it out. Right. But he did. And, he's all the better for it. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's a good one, right?
Yeah.
Because sell, take some cash out,
Yeah.
go back and do fixed income, right?
Yeah,
Fixed wing inventory again, right?
Right.
But you persevered and wow, what an outcome. And going to the outcome. So exits are always interesting, right? They're emotional. It's your baby. You've built this beautiful thing. And so I mean, at some point, what was the trigger mechanism where you said, okay, it's time to explore this? And you talked a little bit about you went through a very deliberate process. You talked to a lot of 40 different companies bidding, talking to 12, 13 companies doing measuring. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So it's clear. I mean, that's not surprising based on the businesses you built and what they are and the operational demand that you put that same kind of effort into
Sure.
exit.
Yeah.
What was it? What triggered it?
Sure.
And then talk about the exit
Yeah.
process going through that.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to talk about for entrepreneurs and how you go through the exit process. But what triggered it to me, I think, was I'm good from building companies from the ground up,
Yeah.
to 100 million, right? After that, it becomes a different baby, right? Your HR. I mean, we were in 35 different states, and you have different state laws and different things to do with HR, and you have different employment situations. So it got to a level. I'm probably not the guy to take it from 100 to 200.
Know thyself.
Yeah, right. So I knew that it was time. We really needed to beef up our HR department, our back offices, get a more of a team, not a me and my partner, right, and a couple key people, a bigger team to
Right.
get it to that 200 or 300 million. And
Right.
I didn't believe I was the guy, and so that was the catalyst to say, okay, let's look at let's take it to market and see if there's an interest. And there was a huge interest in this because of I think really because one, it was a good company. Um, we were profitable, but it had a great mission, right? So I think a lot of people, a lot of companies, strategic and equity partners, all they looked at it seriously, and like I said, we had 40 written offers, so th- th- we had, we had the command,
Right.
right there. So
It's a good place to be.
yeah, it was a real good place to be. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And how did you decide on the winner?
Yeah,
What was
yeah. So, very interesting. It is a process for anybody who hasn't gone through it. weeding out. We decided to weed 12 of the people. We took there was 15 actually. We took 12 of the top 15 and set up. And actually, the 15th was the buyer who took it. So you never know
You never know.
where it's at, right? But we then had to have create the pitch deck and the whole presentation, and we went to dinner, at least one dinner, probably three, most of them, and then 4-hour meetings several times going through the company, and then did a couple visits to the office in our dispatch center, kind of running them through our procedures and our all the different stopgaps to make sure that we're getting the right organ, because sometimes you might walk in a room and there might be 3 organs. Well,
Oh,
you got to take the right one and bring it to the right place.
that's important.
It's important, right?
Yeah.
So we have a million little stop checks,
Right.
different things for our people that they have to do it. But until you do it, you learn from experience, right? Um, so yeah, that is kind of how we work through it. But it's a huge process to come up with all that information. We had a broker who helped us, an investment banker. Give them a little cue. They were Northeast Partners, Northbourne. No, I'm sorry, Northbourne Partners up in Minneapolis, and they did a great job. I mean, really, when you're trying to run the business and do all that,
Have a team.
and you have to have a team, and they did a great job. They took a lot of pressure off of me in support and communication,
Mhm.
so I didn't have to deal with everything. Yeah,
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I what I like about the fact that number 15 won
yeah,
is that it speaks to how you've done everything in your career. Because, as I mentioned, having 12 finalists and doing 12 dinners and 12 meetings, more than 12, right? Doing
yeah,
that amount of time. Most people don't want to go that deep. Yet, if you didn't go that deep,
yeah.
the buyer that you chose wouldn't be
Wouldn't
there.
be
If you just said, "Listen, I'm not doing all that.
yeah,
Pick the top 5,
yeah,
and that's it." You wouldn't actually have the buyer
that's correct.
that you settle on, and you're happy with that
Uh,
decision.
I'm very happy with it. I love the managing partner. He's a great guy, and I'll be honest. I could have cut it all out. He jumped in a car, came over to Country Club, and had dinner with me. And he was the first person I met with. Um, and I met with him probably 5 times through the process, and he ended up being the winner. But I could have just said, "Okay, it's yours."
So what you're saying is this is unusual. You're saying that a guy who hustled,
Yes.
showed leadership in almost like a sports-like manner,
Yes.
go get the win,
Yeah.
it's, you know,
Yeah.
just ran through a wall to come get you, and that
Yeah.
appealed to you.
I
Imagine
did.
that.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. That's it.
That's such a great win.
Yeah.
That's such a great win.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so you've had multiple businesses, successes. You've overcome multiple challenges, which is, well, what I love about all these stories,
Sure.
to build this incredible. I mean, your business is so unique.
Right.
It's so incredible. Um, so now you exit,
Mm.
and what do now you gotta do something with your time.
Yeah.
So I know you're heavily involved in a foundation that's
Yeah.
really important to you, and I know you play some golf and
Yeah.
you enjoy time now that you may not have had before.
Yeah, yeah. There's a little bit of everything. I'm still on the board with Nora, and it's still and coaching my replacement a little bit. We talk on a regular basis, and I'm involved in a lot of the financial decisions and so forth. But I'm 5 hours a week now, not 60 to 80 to 100 hours a week.
How you feeling about that?
I love it.
Okay, so it was the right time.
It was the right time.
That's the right
It
time.
was the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was ready because I, like you say, it's one business after another business after another business, and this is given and you're in, you're gotta be all in, right? So you're giving everything, right? And a lot of times to your family's neglect, right? So, it's time to pay back. My wife kind of stood by me where I didn't. It wasn't there a lot of times,
Yeah.
because I was working. So
Tough.
so yes, reference to my foundation. I had a daughter who passed away at 27 years old, had a heart attack, My wife found her on the floor, and she was a special needs kid. And so we have created Amber Jones Family Foundation, which services adults with special needs, because what happens with kids that once through 21, they're in the school system. And the school system does a real nice job of taking care of kids till 21. But once they turn into an adult, they're really on their own, right? And these
Yeah.
kids, they just can't, they don't have the ability to do that. And there needs to be more services for these kids when they're adults now. These adults, from living to education to work opportunities, etc. So our fund supports programs who do that. Um, and it's a new foundation, and my wife is spearheading it, but it's there to facilitate those young adults who need help moving to the next stage in their life.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. Well, my wife's sister, Melissa, she worked in that area, right? Specifically, she was in New Jersey, and they basically had housing for special needs folks that could almost live on their own,
Hmm.
not quite all the way. So there was just enough assistance to give them independence, even though maybe there was a little less independence than they realized. Or right, it was guiding them to the independent place where they needed to be. Um,
And they need to learn that independence. It takes them a while.
it
It's
takes
going to take them longer to learn that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fascinating. That's great. Is there somewhere somebody should go to learn about your foundation?
Um, I'm sorry, I don't know the website, so I can't. I can't. I'll tune it in later.
Okay.
This is where I do my
Yeah.
magic. I'll do like a little overlay that has the website and we'll splash it on there. Maybe even a QR code if we're getting really fancy. Huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Um, you know, I don't know. I'm still a little involved, which is keeping me somewhat interested. I want to get my golf game good enough to beat you, so I have to work on that a little bit. And I want to, typical get in shape. If I'm an old guy, get better shape, and do that. And then from a business perspective, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
Who knows? You never know when opportunities will arise, and if you want to take that step into it again or not.
yeah,
I kind of hope not. I mean, I'm 65,
right.
kind of let's
Okay.
settle, but who knows?
Well, it could be something different. And by the way, so you lost a lot of weight. Like you've
Lost some, but I
yeah,
got more to go.
yeah,
Yeah,
but you've
yeah,
done well. I mean, you've got yourself, you took this very seriously, like you've done everything else,
yeah,
right? Once you set your mind to it. Who knows? Maybe it'll be mentoring or, leadership, which you've
sure.
expressed your whole life.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fascinating. Um, well, that's great. I mean, what a story, what a life. Really excited to tell the story.
yeah,
And I mean, I think it's a fascinating,
yeah.
fascinating business that you in.
Yeah, you don't. Most people tell me I never knew anybody who has done what you do,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And it's a pretty small niche industry out there
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on your success. You've been very lucky.
Now,
We had this conversation in the pre talk, and Don and I feel the same way about people saying you're lucky,
yeah,
right? I mean,
you make luck.
you make luck.
That's right.
Yeah.
You got to be in the right position at the right time to see it and take advantage of luck.
Yeah.
And that comes through hard work and effort.
Yep. And you've executed. Yeah. Overnight success over decades of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
All right.
This was great, Don. I really enjoyed the conversation. And for the folks out there, we hope you enjoyed the conversation. What a fascinating story with Don Jones of Nora and other businesses. And so tune in. And Michelle, you want to take it away on all the different places that we record our podcast.
Yes, absolutely. What a great conversation. And so you can find all of the episodes on fromthegroundup.fm, wherever you listen to your podcasts. That's whether that's Apple or Spotify, we are there. And you can always go to verdance.com and go from there. We have lots of good information and an archive of all the episodes. So thank you so much. This was excellent.
Great. Thanks, everybody. I hope you
Sure.
enjoyed the conversation. Thanks, Don.
Yeah. Thank you.